to the Black Suit. I'm Gigi and I'm a working lawyer, and I started this channel to provide tips and guidance to professional women like myself. A while back I did a video on how to perform a self-evaluation, how to fill out a self-evaluation, and I got some questions after that video about how to seek feedback, because I recommended in that video, which I'll link up above here. You could click the gray link up on top of this video if you want to watch it. In that video, I talk about how you should seek feedback and keep records of any feedback you get on any projects you've completed over the course of the year, so that when it comes time to fill out the self-evaluation, you will know what you did and be able to write about what you did and your accomplishments. So I got some questions about how exactly should you go about getting that feedback throughout the year, because I think it's something that we don't do often enough, and myself included. I think we often just forget in the day-to-day grind of our work that it's important to also take a step back and see what exactly was great about your project and what you may be able to improve on, because there's always room for improvement, right? Anyway, so I think that today I will talk about four main topics that relate to seeking feedback, and those are: how often should you seek feedback, how to go about seeking feedback, why you should seek feedback, and I'll also talk about what if you don't agree with the feedback, because I know there have been times when I don't feel that the feedback is accurate or doesn't tell the whole story. What can we do about that? So if you're interested in these topics, stay tuned. Before we get to the first topic, I just want to say that I brought in this tree because I'm feeling the Christmas spirit, so here you go. Hope this cheers up the video a bit. So for the first topic, I want to talk about how often do you seek feedback. Ideally, you want to seek feedback after every major project or assignment or initiative. So let's say that you did a research project or wrote a memorandum on a specific question that you were given by your superior. After you finish that project, you should just casually ask, how does this look? Should I have added any particular section or anything that could have improved this document? So just casual is best, because sometimes your superiors might not want to take a lot of time out of their day to give you a thorough point-by-point analysis of your work. So just casually saying something can just get them to open up a little bit more and have any immediate thoughts on their mind be shared with you, so that you know right away what their impressions are. And you want to ask right away so that they don't forget what they think about your work product. So the sooner you ask after a project is done, the better. Now, if you have longer term projects that span several months or several years, you'll want to check in periodically with your manager or the partner you're working with if you're at a firm. You want to see what they think about your project every 3 or 4 months or so that you know quickly, or as quick as possible in that case, how you're doing. Because again, you need that feedback to eventually give yourself a self-evaluation. And the feedback could be positive. I mean, not all feedback is negative. So the more you can get that positive feedback, the better your self-evaluation will be at the end of the year. So that's very crucial to squirrel away if you get that positive feedback. So to the second topic, how should you seek feedback? Again, some supervisors are not comfortable giving feedback, because I know, for example, somebody I knew once upon a time, and this has happened to me as well, when I give feedback to people who work on my projects, I say what I think is a fair assessment, but the employee may think that, well, I don't really know what her comment means, so I'm gonna go talk to her. And it creates sort of a confrontation that some people are uncomfortable with. And I think for that reason, some supervisors, managers, more senior people in your office might not be comfortable sharing a lot of details about what you did and what they thought about what you did, because they don't want a confrontation between you and them. So, to kind of lessen some of that fear that some managers may have, I think it's better to seek feedback in a casual manner. For example, emails are a great way to broach the topic without seeming like you are too aggressive or too needy. So, an email is easy for people to just answer whenever they have time to answer. So let's say you're sending your supervisor your memorandum that I mentioned earlier. Just again, gently ask in the email, what does he or she think about what you did? How could you have made some things better? Or what are the things that they liked about it even, right? Because again, you want to get positive feedback too, so you can put those on your record during the self-evaluation process. And sometimes, of course, supervisors are too busy to respond to emails, so you may have to escalate if you want feedback. You may have to just call them up or step into their office. Once COVID is over, you're back in the office and you can physically reach them in their office. I would highly recommend that. Just, go in there, knock on their door, say, can I, have a few minutes of your time to talk about X project? And more likely than not, they'll say, fine, yeah, come sit down and you guys can have an honest discussion. That doesn't need to be on the record. But you'll want to make notes after that discussion for yourself, for your own record, so you can be sure to include whatever good points they talked about on your self-evaluation. And also make note of any negative feedback so that you can improve on those aspects of your work. So email and in-person are great ways to get feedback. Another great way that I've seen adopted in some firms is a formal system for getting feedback. So you may not even have to initiate feedback gathering on your own. Your HR department could do it for you. Some companies have this. And if it's not something that you have at your workplace, maybe speak to somebody who can institute a formal system where when assignment's completed, you can enter into that system what you've done, who was in charge, and then that system can automatically seek feedback from the person in charge so that you don't feel awkward going and asking for feedback yourself. And if it's more formalized in a system like that, I think your managers and supervisors will be more open to, and more timely with the feedback they give, because if there's a system in place, that means that the powers that be at your workplace probably encourage this sort of immediate feedback practice. So why is it important to seek feedback? Again, like I said earlier, you want to do it so that you have a record of all the great things you did, and that will help a lot when final performance review comes around the end of the year and self-evaluations come around the end of the year. And another reason you want to seek feedback as often as you can, or at least after each project or every quarter of the year, is that you can more immediately correct any bad habits that you might be exhibiting in your work product. That's really important, because the more you can correct your mistakes right away, the better your work gets. And the better your work gets, then the more positive performance reviews you'll get from your supervisors and managers at the end of the year. And not only are you going to be more likely to improve faster if you seek feedback more often, the other benefit of seeking feedback more often is you're showing that you really care about what you're doing and you're not just doing the grind, like you're actively engaged in your performance. And supervisors love to see that just in and of itself, even if you are not necessarily acting on all of the comments they give back to you or making improvements on all of the negative areas that they pointed out to you. Even if you don't do that, just the act of asking for feedback itself, I think, will show that you are a engaged part of the team and you are striving to be better, and that can really alter their perception of you as an employee, and they'll probably favor you more even if you're not perfect, because you're trying to be better, and that is not something that every employee exhibits, that's for sure. So this seeking feedback is a way to distinguish yourself from the pack. And on to the fourth and last topic of today's video, which is, what if you don't agree with the feedback that you're given? And I'm sure we've all experienced times when you don't necessarily see eye to eye with your manager or supervisor. So of course, whatever comments they give, you might not find very helpful or accurate. In situations like that, I would say that you should first listen carefully and listen actively. Don't try to respond right away. Just listen and then ask follow-up questions to get clarification, because I think a lot of the times feedback is very unspecific, and that lends itself to being interpreted as inaccurate. So if you get the comment, for example, that your writing was poor, ask for examples, like which paragraph did your supervisor think you could have improved on, or how did they think it should look, that paragraph, or whatever part of the document is not acceptable to them. So try to really drill down on the specifics, because otherwise it will be hard for you to improve yourself if you don't know what exactly is the problem. And then if you agree with the feedback even after you get more clarification through follow-up questions, again, don't respond right away, don't get angry about it. Just again, listen actively, give yourself some time to cool off. If the comments your managers or supervisors give you are just so frankly rude, because sometimes I think that some managers and supervisors don't intend to be rude, but they can come off as somewhat rude or abrasive, because negative comments are always a little bit harsh, right? So just take some time to cool off. You don't have to respond right away. You could tell your manager, hey, I appreciate these comments. Can you give me a day or two to think about them? And can I follow up with you next week or in 2 weeks to discuss further if I have any remaining questions? That cool off period can let you get your emotions out of the way, so you can focus more logically on what has been told to you, and then think of a strategy to either implement changes to improve yourself, or think of ways to go back to the manager and straighten things out if you do in fact think they are wrong. Now, if you're in a situation where you're constantly getting really negative feedback, or you're dealing with a supervisor who's just really difficult, is known widely across the organization or your firm to be difficult, and doesn't always give objective feedback or precise feedback that's helpful, then you definitely want to advocate for yourself, right? You don't want to be a pushover and just yield to every single comment, even if that comment is coming from a supervisor, right? Because again, they might not be precise enough or accurate enough. You'll want to write a note in your employee record or in your self-evaluation at the end of the year what exactly they said about you, what you tried to improve on, and then also what you thought was not accurate and not a fair assessment of your abilities. And then you can maybe cite to other people who've given positive feedback to you to counter that negative feedback you got from one person. So it's important to set the record straight, to speak up for yourself if you do feel like you're just being kind of the scapegoat for different mistakes or different things that happen that negatively impact clients or negatively impact your work. So those are the feedback related topics I wanted to cover. I hope that these tips have clarified some of the points I mentioned in my self-evaluation video. I think, again, the takeaway here is don't be afraid to seek feedback. Do it every once in a while or every time you finish a project, because it can really help you rather than hurt you. If you get negative feedback, you can improve on that feedback more quickly, or implement improvements to get more positive feedback. And if you get positive feedback, well, that's great. That's a lot of good stuff you can include in your self-evaluation at the end of the year. So I hope you liked this video. If there are any topics you want me to cover in future videos, please comment below. I am happy to answer any questions. Oh, and before we end the video, I do want to kind of help you take action here. So in your next week of work, I encourage you to go and seek feedback from one person that you've worked with. It's hard to seek feedback, but if you take little steps to start seeking feedback, it'll get easier. Okay, all right, I hope, again, this was helpful. Please hit the thumbs up button if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe by clicking the red button down below this video. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.